The Toronto Regionals happened last weekend, and today I'm going to break down how Roaring Moon got its 4th regional title, how an uncommon move allowed it to win a Roaring Moon mirror match, and one of the most dominant series I've ever seen. Let's go. The winning team here consists of Gholdengo, Urshifu Water, Roaring Moon, Incineroar, Amoonguss, and Landorus Incarnate. Gholdengo is running a pretty standard choice spec set with the moves Make It Rain, Shadow Ball, Dazzling Gleam, and Trick. He's just here to be a delete button when it's needed. Urshifu Water is running Terra Fire and a Mystic Water set, having the moves Surging Strikes, Close Combat, Aqua Jet, and Protect. I've not seen that much Terra Fire Urshifu outside of Toronto, but it does seem to be something that's picking up in play. Roaring Moon is here too, you read the title, you know that, holding the booster energy, opting for a more supportive set with Breaking Swipe, Knockoff, Tailwind, and Protect. Incineroar's next, and the moveset is standard, but Carry opted to go for a Rocky Helmet instead, and Terra Flying. Amoonguss has the most standard set you'll ever see: Sludge Bomb, Spore, Rage Powder, Protect, Terra Water, Citrus Berry. Landorus rounded off the team with a standard set too, with Earth Power, Sludge Bomb, Sansia Storm, Protect, with the Life Orb and a Terra type of Steel. Now we know the team, let's go through the semi-finals match where we see a Roaring Moon mirror match and see what happened and how this game was won. His opponent is Jack Clark, and his team consists of Entei, Roaring Moon, Gholdengo, Ogerpon Water, Okidogi, and Grimmsnarl. Entei is holding a choice band and is here to do massive damage. I'm not too sure about Stone Edge though. This seems quite risky to use. Jack's Roaring main is different from Carrie's, since he's running Acrobatics and Terra Flying instead of Carrie's set, which had Breaking Swipe and Terra Poison. This Gholdengo is probably quite bulky, it's a Nasty Plot set with a Citrus Berry. Ogerpon Water is using Swords Dance instead of Follow Me, which I really like. I think that this has potential to be really strong. It allows Jack to put immense pressure on his opponents. He can just go for a Swords Dance, and then Ogerpon is a massive threat. Okidogi is a really standard set, the Assault Vest makes him really bulky, and his moves are standard. Grimmsnarl is here too, to provide Prankster Thunder Waves and screen support. He's also running Terra Grass to prevent any Amoonguss spores, and to resist Urshifu Surging Strikes. Game 1, Carry leads Roaring Moon and Landorus, Jack leads Grimmsnarl and Gholdengo. Roaring Moon's booster energy activates, giving it a speed boost. This is not a good situation for Jack, especially since Gholdengo is under so much pressure. He switches Gholdengo into Roaring Moon, it gets an attack boost from the booster energy, and carries Roaring Moon Terras into Poison. Grimmsnarl hits Light Screen, Roaring Moon knocks off the Gholdengo slot, and Carry hits both targets with Sansia Storm. Grimmsnarl uses Reflect, Carrie's Moon hits Tailwind, Sansia misses Grimmsnarl, and Roaring Moon survives on just 14 HP. It knocks off Landorus, removing its Life Orb and making Landorus much weaker. Jack protects Roaring Moon. Carrie's Moon hits Breaking Swipe, and Landorus hits Earth Power into Grimmsnarl. Grimmsnarl then hits Spirit Break, taking down Landorus. Carrie brings Gholdengo in, and Jack protects his Roaring Moon. It fails. Grimmsnarl uses Thunder Wave onto Carrie's Moon, and Carrie's Moon hits through Paralysis to knock off Grimmsnarl's Light Clay. Gholdengo's Make It Rain takes down both of Jack's Pokemon. Ogerpon Water and Gholdengo are sent out, and Carrie switches Gholdengo into Amoonguss. Jack's Gholdengo protects and Roaring Moon hits Breaking Swipe. Ogerpon hits a Swords Dance, meaning it has a +1 attack stat after the Breaking Swipe drop. Tailwind goes down. Ogerpon uses Spiky Shield, Roaring Moon gets parried, and Gholdengo gets a Nasty Plot up. Amoonguss goes for Spore into the Ogerpon slot. Both of Jack's Pokemon are boosted, and this is looking scary for Carrie. Roaring Moon protects. Ogerpon's Ivy Cudgel hits the protected slot. Gholdengo Make It Rain does about 85% to Amoonguss, and Amoonguss's Citrus Berry is activated. Sludge Bomb hits Ogerpon, and poisons. Ogerpon only has 3 turns left on the field unless it heals up with Horn Leech. Amoonguss switches for Gholdengo. Roaring Moon tries to double protect, but fails. An Ivy Cudgel plus Make It Rain takes down Roaring Moon. Jack's Light Screen went away. Jack terrors his Gholdengo and Amoonguss hits Rage Powder. Ivy Cudgel crits and takes down Gholdengo. Make It Rain does 40% to Amoonguss. Reflect wears off. The battle is cancelled. Jack is 1 game away from eliminating Carrie and making the grand finals. Game 2 starts with a Roaring Moon and Gholdengo lead from Carrie, and a Roaring Moon Grimmsnarl lead from Jack. Jack terastallizes his Roaring Moon since it's threatened by Breaking Swipe from Carrie's Roaring Moon. Carrie also terrors him on, that being Gholdengo. Grimmsnarl hits Light Screen and Carrie gets Tailwind up. Gholdengo goes for Dazzling Gleam, which does half to Grimmsnarl. Roaring Moon knocks off Gholdengo's choice specs. Grimmsnarl uses Reflect, Breaking Swipe comes out from Carrie's Mon, Gholdengo knocks Grimmsnarl out with Make It Rain, and Jack gets Tailwind up. Ogerpon switches in, and Roaring Moon hits Break Swipe again. Jack's Roaring Moon hits Acrobatics into Roaring Moon, doing about 40%. Ogerpon hits Swords Dance, and Gholdengo's Shadow Ball does a bit of damage, but it does get the special defense drop on Ogerpon. Jack is really struggling here. He goes for a double protect. Carrie's Tailwind goes down, and Jack has one turn where his Ogerpon is faster than Carrie's Pokemon. Carrie protects Roaring Moon, and Jack tried doubling into it. Gholdengo's Shadow Ball takes down Roaring Moon. Tailwind is gone. Gholdengo is back in for Jack. Jack protects Gholdengo, Roaring Moon sets up Tailwind, and carries Gholdengo Shadow Balls Ogerpon. Ogerpon Horn Leech crits and gives Ogerpon so much health. Gholdengo goes for a double protect, and it hits. Roaring Moon uses knockoff into the Gholdengo slot. Carries Gholdengo uses Shadow Ball into the protected Gholdengo too, and Horn Leech almost takes down Gholdengo. Knockoff from Roaring Moon does half to Gholdengo, and Gholdengo Shadow Balls into Ogerpon. Horn Leech takes down Roaring Moon, and Make It Rain takes down Carrie's Gholdengo. Light Screen expires. Carrie's last two Pokemon are Landorus and Urshifu. Jack goes for a double protect. Close combat from Urshifu hits through Ogerpon's protect and brings it down to 19 HP. Depending on how fast each Pokemon is, Ogerpon could outspeed both of Carrie's mons. Ogerpon outspeeds Urshifu and takes it down with a Horn Leech. Landorus uses Sludge Bomb and takes down Ogerpon. Gholdengo needs to take down Landorus here if he wants to win. Gholdengo uses Make It Rain, and it doesn't take down Landorus. Earth Power takes down Gholdengo, and we're going to Game 3. Breaking Swipe on Roaring Moon has been so clutch in Games 1 and 2. Let's see how Jack adapts. Game 3 starts with a Roaring Moon Gholdengo and Grimmsnarl Roaring Moon lead, the same as Game 2. Does Jack see something that we don't here? He protects Roaring Moon and light screens with Grimmsnarl. Carrie uses Tailwind and Make It Rain, doing huge damage to Grimmsnarl. Grimmsnarl sets up Reflect. Carrie's Roaring Moon uses Breaking Swipe, and Gholdengo hits Make It Rain again, bringing Roaring Moon below 50%. Acrobatics does 1/3 to Carrie's Roaring Moon. Ogerpon Water is back. Roaring Moon switches for Gholdengo. Breaking Swipe comes out. Carrie's Gholdengo uses Make It Rain, and Ogerpon Swords Dances. Carrie then switches Gholdengo for Urshifu to reset the special attack drops and protects Roaring Moon. Ogerpon Horn Leech goes into Roaring Moon, and Make It Rain barely does anything to Urshifu. Carrie terrors Urshifu. Roaring Moon hits Tailwind. Surging Strikes goes into Gholdengo, and he holds. Ogerpon Horn Leech goes into the Terrafire Urshifu, and Gholdengo sets up Nasty Plot. Roaring Moon hits Breaking Swipe, and Urshifu's Surging Strike takes down Gholdengo. Ivy Cudgel also takes down Urshifu. Gholdengo is back, and Roaring Moon too. Jack terrors his Ogerpon and protects Roaring Moon. Breaking Swipe and Shadow Ball hit Ogerpon, lowering its special defense stat. Ogerpon hits a Swords Dance. It's now +1. But Jack's Pokemon are almost out of HP. Breaking Swipe brings both Pokemon into the red, and Shadow Ball takes down Roaring Moon. Ivy Cudgel does some damage to Roaring Moon too. Roaring Moon uses Tailwind, and Shadow Ball takes down the Ogerpon, bringing Carrie to his first ever regional finals. Now that Carrie has gotten to the finals, his opponent is Paul Chewer, one of the most decorated players, boasting multiple regional wins over many different eras. This was going to be a difficult opponent for Carrie, but his matchup was pretty favourable. Paul's team had a Raging Bolt, Rillaboom, Ogerpon Fire, Urshifu Water, Fluttermane, and Incineroar. This Raging Bolt was the Carmine variant, and besides Paul's Ogerpon having Grassy Glide as its primary move, there was nothing out of the ordinary going on this team. Maybe the Terra Grass on Fluttermane isn't as common as Terra Fairy, but that's the only standout thing here. Game 1 starts with Paul leading Ogerpon and Fluttermane, and Carrie leading Urshifu and Amoonguss. Carrie terrors his Urshifu to resist Ogerpon's grass moves. Amoonguss protects. Fluttermane goes for Moonblast into Urshifu, and Ogerpon went for Ivy Cudgel into Amoonguss. Surging Strikes from Urshifu takes down Ogerpon Fire, and Carrie has the lead. Paul sends in Rillaboom, and Urshifu switches into Incineroar. Fluttermane hits Thunder Wave into Amoonguss, and Rillaboom hits a high horsepower, doing about 1/3 to Incineroar. Amoonguss hits through the para and Sludge Bombs Rillaboom. Fluttermane protects. Rillaboom goes for high horsepower again, and Rocky Helmet is slowly chipping away at Rillaboom. Incineroar goes for Flare Blitz into Rillaboom, taking it out, and Amoonguss is paralyzed and can't move. Paul is really on the back foot here, and he needs some paras to go his way. He goes for Terra Grass on Fluttermane. Moonblast takes down Incineroar. Raging Bolt goes for Calm Mind, and Spore goes into the Raging Bolt. Urshifu is back, and Fluttermane's Thunder Wave paras Urshifu. Raging Bolt stays asleep. Urshifu's Close Combat gets a critical hit and one-shots Fluttermane. Sludge Bomb also did a little bit of damage to Raging Bolt, but leftovers and grassy terrain healing negates it. Raging stays asleep on the next turn, and Close Combat does about 45% to the Bolt. Amoonguss was covering for a Wake Up, and went for a Spore, Grassy terrain goes down, so Raging Bolt won't get as much healing. Bolt wakes up and goes for Dragon Pulse into Amoonguss. Urshifu is paralyzed, and Amoonguss is paralyzed too. It's still a bad situation for Paul to be in, but it gives him more of a fighting chance. Dragon Pulse from Bolt takes down Urshifu, and Amoonguss hits through Para and goes for Spore. Raging Bolt is asleep again, and we see that he has Landorus in the back. The battle is cancelled, and Carry is 1-0 up. All he needs now is one more game to win his first ever regional. Game 2 starts with an Incineroar and Raging Bolt lead from Paul, and then Amoonguss and Landorus lead from Carry. Incineroar switches into Rillaboom, and Raging Bolt protects. Sansear does about 15% to Paul's Rillaboom. Paul goes for a Terra on his Raging Bolt, and Fake Out goes into Amoonguss. Carry reads this and went for Sludge Bomb into the Raging Bolt, bringing it down to about 20%. Bolt then goes for a Calm Mind. Carry goes for a Terra on Landorus, and Raging Bolt protects. Landorus hits the protected Bolt, and Rillaboom's Wood Hammer does about 40% to Landorus. Carry was predicting a switch here, and went for a Spore into the Rillaboom slot. Landorus switches into Incineroar, Grassy Glide does nothing to Incin, and Thunderclap fails. Carry also spores Paul's Raging Bolt. High Horsepower then went into Incin and did less than a third. Raging Bolt stays asleep. Incineroar hits a Parting Shot into Raging Bolt, and brings back Landorus. Grassy terrain then disappears. Landorus' Sludge Bomb brings Raging Bolt low, High Horsepower from Rillaboom did 40%, and Raging Bolt wakes up and goes for Dragon Pulse into the Landorus, and he survives on 2 HP. Amoonguss Sludge Bomb then takes down Raging Bolt. Ogerpon comes back in, Landorus and Rillaboom both switch into Incineroar. Ogerpon Fire goes for Swords Dance, and Sludge Bomb from Amoonguss does about 70%. And he gets the poison. This Ogerpon only has 2 turns on the field now, and is just waiting to go down. Incineroar switches to Urshifu, and Amoonguss goes into Landorus. Fake Out hits Urshifu, and Ivy Cudgel goes into Landorus. Ogerpon has 1 turn left. Paul's Incineroar switches into Rillaboom, and Carry's Incineroar fakes out Ogerpon, taking it down, and Surging Strikes hits the Rillaboom slot, doing about 30%. Incineroar is back, and Paul cancels the battle. Carry Dortona is your Toronto Regional Champion, picking up his first ever regional win, and guaranteeing his slot at the World Championships. Okay guys, I just want to say that I will be at Birmingham Regional this weekend, so if you see me, feel free to say hi, you know what it is. Come say hi, it's okay. I will be competing in my first regional, so let's see how that goes. I might get humbled really quickly. But yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.